for so many reasons. So what would be the main obstacles for a digital transformation like that?
Well, wow. I think, it's a jungle of obstacles and risks.
Yeah,
And
right.
in a way, I think part of the damage that all the hype does, it creates a romance around these
Yeah.
technologies. And
Yeah,
what
there
we
is
purposely,
this, the hype
yeah,
around AI is like, wow. I think it's the highest right now, I guess.
every few years we have a hype around something,
Yeah.
and even within AI there are subtopics that get hyped in different phases over time. And I think hype is sometimes just a necessity to get attention, to get awareness, to get funding, to get resources, to be allowed to experiment. But it's not a sufficient enough
Yeah.
condition to see tangible business outcomes. So the risks,
Sure.
I think, or the risks, I think the first primary risk in digital transformation is not knowing what the risks are,
Yeah.
because that type of romantic perspective says, you know what, let's just jump in, let's build a model, let's get all this data, let's try,
Yeah.
and hopefully there'll be this moment in time where we click a button, everybody will love our idea, the machine will give such an amazing output, and we're all going to make a big change in the world. And
Yeah.
of course the reality is not that. So we
Yeah.
have, I think, three categories of risks. We have strategic risks. That means that we might be investing our energy on solving challenges that are not linked to where the business is heading, to the North Star that we should be following. And I think that is very important to take into consideration. What's the broad context of what the business wants to do in the future? Who do we want to be, and what is the value we want to provide? And how do our efforts with these new technologies accelerate our ability to get there? Of course, there's technical
Sure.
risks and technical hurdles. I've heard so many people saying the following: I'm sitting on a gold mine. I have so much data. I feel that all I need is a clever data scientist, and we're going to be able to get
Yeah.
diamonds out of the rough.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah. There
reality
it is.
is, there is no magic. And in many cases, there is a process of disillusionment because you don't have enough data, or the data might not be accessible or findable, the quality might be low. And in many of these applications, like machine learning or deep learning, you need very large quantities
Yeah.
of data, but
Of
the
good
quality
data.
that and good data. So of course, this links to IT infrastructure and how data is generated, etc. But I would
Yeah.
say the one that's most interesting for me, oh, sorry, I stopped you in the middle.
Yeah, I want to say about the quantity of data. I heard someone from google.org, and they had AI projects for medical domain. And he said that the main obstacle for them is to get the data. And I said to myself, it's Google. The problem is data for Google. I know there is all these privacy issues with the hospitals, but still, can you just encrypt it or something? Like, can't you get the data? And if he's saying that, I guess that many
Yeah.
other companies find it challenging.
And look, at Bayer, we have more than 15,000 scientists in our R&D organization. We are a data-rich, data-driven organization, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the data that is generated in the day-to-day, in the systems that we use, or in the processes that we apply, that they necessarily are good enough or applicable enough for these AI applications. And sometimes it means that you have to realize that there's a constraint in terms of data availability and quality, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the road. It just means you might have to adjust your vision,
Or
or
work harder.
work harder to reconstruct the IT architecture and sometimes the data generation front ends to totally shift the processes of data generation and curation. It's not